to section 5, measures of center. This is the first video. Okay, so we want to calculate the center of the data for once we collect our samples, and there's many ways to calculate center. There's not one way. So the first is the arithmetic mean, which means you add up the individual values. So little I right there is individual values, and you divide by the number of samples in your set, basically. So they use X bar for the sample mean. If you're doing a population, of course, they use Greek letters. So anytime you do a population in statistics, they use a Greek letter. They use the letter mu, and it becomes a capital N, because now it's all of the samples essentially, versus lowercase n is some of the possible samples in the population. But either way, you're adding up the individual values, right? Adding this is sigma notation. Individual values is the I. But that's assuming all the data values are worth the same. If you have a weighted mean, you have to multiply each of the individual values by weight. So GPA and grades and other things like that, where each item has different weights, needs to be a weighted mean instead, which is a slight variation. Mode is the how many times it repeats itself. So if they're all equally equal frequencies, come on, pen, why isn't it working? Okay, there we go. If they're all equal frequencies, then there is no modes. The mode's the weird one because there might not actually be one. It's unimodal if there's one data value that is the greatest frequency, right? Repeats the most essentially, right? Uni 1, bi is 2. So you could have two modes, right? So again, mode's the weird one because there might not be an answer. There might be one answer. There might be two answers. There actually might be more than two answers, which is multi, right? So you can have un, bi, tri, so on and so forth. But after bi, we'll just call it multi, because the chance of having more than two is rare in true data. Bi happens a lot, though. Okay. Mid-range is just the middle of the range, right? Mid-range, middle of the range. So you just take the maximum and the minimum, divide by 2, you call it a day. Okay? All right. So mean and mid-range are just straight-up calculations. Mode, you have to think a little bit, and it's a little weird because the answers are going to vary. And then median is also one you have to think a little bit, because the answers will vary also. So mode and median are the ones the answers vary as to how you answer them. So x tilde, right, is the median, right? Like the tilde, right, on your keyboard there in the top left, correct? Right? I make terrible tildes. So the median is that place in between in the interstate where you end up when you're texting and driving and not paying attention, right? So the problem is in the median, there might not be a true middle, right? So you have to arrange the values in ascending or descending order, right? So you have to arrange them in ascending to order, right? Or you can arrange in values of decreasing or increasing, however you want to think about it, basically. Then you have to think about, is there an odd or an even number of values? And you're like, well, why does that even matter? Well, if you're a Massachusetts driver, right, you have to use your middle turn signal, correct? If you're not from Massachusetts, you probably don't get that, but this is why Mickey Mouse cannot drive in Massachusetts, because Mickey Mouse only has 4 fingers, correct? So he doesn't have Mickey Mouse does not have the middle turn signal to drive in Massachusetts, right? But luckily, you have your middle turn signal, correct? Because you have 5 fingers, so you can drive in Massachusetts, right? So an even number of values does not have a middle finger, but an odd number of values does have a middle finger, correct? So if it's odd, it's easy. You just take the one in the middle, you're done, right? But if it's an even number, you have to take the average of those two middle ones, right, to figure out the true middle. Okay, so you have to do a little bit of work on the median and the mode, because the way you answer it varies depending on whether it's odd or even or not. Okay, so let's do some answers here. So arithmetic mean, so we're going to add these up. I have to simply do equals, do this little thing right here, format color, blue. Okay, I'm going to do 475 plus 447 plus 440 plus 761 plus 993 plus 1052 plus 783 plus 671 plus 621, and there's how many values there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and there's 9 values, right? So if I add those up, I'm going to get 6,243 over 9, which will give me 693.6 repeating, right? Where's the bar? Here's the bar right there, and that's my answer there. So format, color, orange, right? So notice X bar is the symbol they use for a sample mean, because obviously this is only a sample of 9 months, right? Because not all the months have ever happened. Okay, I added up the individual values and divided by 9. Okay, so if it's a median, I need to worry about is there an odd or even number. So if I look here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's a true middle. So I need to arrange these and figure out what the true middle is. So that's X tilde. Right? So the middle is this one right here, 157. Okay? Because I have 5 on this side and 5 on this side. I had 11 values divided by 2 is 5 point something. We don't care what the decimal is. We don't care because there's 5 on either side when I divide, right? 5 on this side, 5 on this side. And the middle value is right there, right? So you use X tilde, and that's our median. Here, however, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's even. That's Mickey Mouse. We do not have a true middle. Therefore, I have to arrange the numbers in order, ascending or descending, right? And as a result, I'm going to get 3 here and 3 here, and I have to take the average of these two numbers, right, to get the medians. The average of those two numbers will be 8, 10 essentially. Okay? Remember, because median and mode, you have to do a little bit of work thinking. The other one, not so much, right? Okay, let's say we have these ones here, and we want to figure out the mode, right? So mode's the one that happens the most. Come on, pen. The mode's the one that happens the most. Correct? So if I look here, it looks like 10 happens 1, 2, 3 times. Nothing help. That's the greatest frequency, right? So that is a single mode or uni, right? So if 1 is uni, 2 is bi, 3 is tri, so on and so forth, right? Okay, so if I look at this next one, what's happening the most? Well, 104 happens 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 109 happens 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. This only happens twice, so that frequency is 2. Those frequencies are 5, so it looks like 104 and 109 are the modes because they happen both the highest frequency, right? So we have a binomial or bimodal problem because two of them repeat the most. They have the highest frequency of 5. Down here we have no mode because every one of these has a frequency of 1. So you remember the definition, if there's no mode if all the frequencies are equal, correct? Right, because we filled these in. Right, we filled these in. Right, if they're all equal, you have no mode. Okay, so even if I double this list, let's say I double the list, right? Let's say I double this list. Okay, every frequency is now 2. So therefore, it's still no mode. If I increase it again, every frequency is 3, right? There is no mode. Okay. So mode, just put none, which is the weird one basically because of the fact if the frequencies are all equal, they don't happen. Where does that stop? I think it was 600 right there. Okay, there we go. All right, and the mid-range is pretty easy. You just do max and min essentially. Let me shrink that down. So equals, so the maximum value on that list is 34.5. We're going to add the minimum value, which is 10, and then divided by 2. Oh, I'm going to put it in the box in the bottom there. Okay, so format color blue. Alright, so that's going to be what? 44.5 divided by 2. So that's 22.25 is my median. Or I'm sorry, mid-range. Okay, so that is the measures of center, hand calculated.